If you're someone who games regularly in the Microsoft ecosystem, I've got some news for you. Things are going to be changing massively over the next couple of years. Microsoft, of course, have been really struggling with their Xbox line of consoles against Sony's PlayStation 5, but that isn't to say that their efforts are going to be stopping anytime soon. There are lots of rumours that Microsoft are working on a handheld device, and of course this does seem to be the case. But yes, while that is true, the company are also going to be changing how Windows handles gaming, with the company recently going on record to say that when it comes to PC gaming, they want things to be a lot more console-like. And this has some shades of things like the Steam OS, yes, but also, of course, well, the Xbox itself. To that end, Valve, allegedly, are going to be working on their own home console, but how that exactly works, no one's too certain right now. And outside of the software and the struggles between Valve and, well, Microsoft, and that's to say nothing of the hardware side of things, with Nvidia all but confirming they are working now on ARM-based processors for the desktop, and we can also assume laptops and potentially even, yes, you guessed it, a portable handheld console. But with that said, guys, there are a lot of new hardware releases over the next year or so, and of course Nvidia's next generation graphics cards are on the horizon, so I suspect many of you are considering picking up a new PC. To that end, you may want to check out our sponsor Whokeys, and they are offering a Windows 10 Pro code, so you can pick up Windows 10 Pro for $23.48 without our discount code, which is RGT. I'll repeat that, RGT, and that becomes $17.61 because our discount code gives you 25% off. Or you can pick up Windows 11 for $30.96 without our code, or $23.22 using, again, our code RGT. And I have used Whokeys many times in the past myself, obviously building a lot of PC hardware. It's nice to actually have legitimate Windows keys. So, yeah, of course, there are a lot of very interesting and cool pieces of hardware that are going to be releasing over the next year or so. So yeah, if you do want to check out our sponsor, of course, support is always appreciated. But with that said, let's get into the rest of the video because quite frankly, we have a lot of stuff to talk about here. So first, let's discuss the rumors surrounding Microsoft's home next generation Xbox console, because there was a rumor that Xbox Prime would launch in 2026. And yes, this video is going to focus a lot on handhelds, Windows and desktop, but I think it's a good idea to get a lay of the land first and Microsoft's vision going forward. So this obviously could muddy the waters, and I want to give you a quick summary of the rumor and then say that I don't think it's legit. Ghost of Hope from the COD community stated that while they were not certain, one of their longer term sources had told them that the new Xbox console known as Xbox Prime would again be launching in 2026. There was no specifications given, there was no performance targets or any of that. But yeah, this rumour was then negated after Windows Central Jez Corden stated that to his knowledge, this rumour is untrue. Now, initially I'd not gotten around to covering this rumour because I was so busy with all of the CES conferences, but a very good source of mine actually reached out to me and actually confirmed that Chez was correct. I was told that while there may be, quote, less exciting, unquote, products which are scheduled for release in that time frame, Microsoft's future plans are mostly, for now anyway, to improving gaming on the Windows handheld devices in the near future, and obviously just focusing on releasing games and so on, and plus of course their normal commitments to other endeavours. So for now at least, I think that the launch of a true next generation home Xbox are most likely untrue. Now, this I find kind of interesting because several months ago, I had heard 2026 was a potential window for the next generation Xbox, maybe slipping into 2027. Sarah Bond from Microsoft has also confirmed the company's plans for next generation hardware. So we're just going to have to wait and see what actually happens with the dedicated hardware side of things. But the real takeaway is that Microsoft's real focus at this point, and I've spoken about this extensively over the past several days, is to improve the performance of PC gaming and enhancing mobile gaming experiences with devices like the Steam Deck. Compared to Windows 10, Windows 11 has had a pretty mixed reception, and I think that's a big reason a lot of folks simply don't want to update. Yes, there are complaints over the GUI itself, but I think most of the complaints that really have a lot of fire behind them is that the actual OS itself is just not as stable in many areas. Outside of the GUI, you have fun issues like performance problems with next generation processors, such as the Ryzen 9000 needing patches to resolve it. Now, yes, you can make some argument that, well, AMD and Intel should have fixed this stuff as well, but those problems are also not present on Linux, just for example. And then we have problems with games themselves. Now, I'm not going to cherry pick here, but a very simple and easy example that's happened quite recently is Assassin's Creed Origin. On Steam, it recently got review bombed because of Windows updates causing the game to basically not work so well. Now, don't get me wrong, I like memeing on Ubisoft like anyone else, and they certainly are very capable of screwing up games on their own. Actually, they regularly screw up games on their own. But you know what, this is one of those times I can't actually blame Ubisoft. Ubisoft released a product and it's working, well, working for Ubisoft anyway, and then Microsoft came along and basically just wrecked it. Now, Microsoft claims they are listening to feedback, and I think it's quite interesting because they have almost confirmed at this stage that they are planning to release a mobile generation of Xbox in some form or another. And it will come as no real surprise to you guys that the company's big focus, therefore, is to sort out its operating system, Windows, to better empower handheld PC market. Right now, Valve's SteamOS is pretty fantastic, and Proton and other efforts have made games that, of course, were only able to run on Windows now basically run on what is essentially a Linux OS. And this must mean that Microsoft are a little bit concerned. The Verge detailed a fascinating roundtable. The event was called The Future of Gaming Handhelds. And this had Jason Ronald, who is the VP of Xbox Next Generation, and he was sitting in with AMD and Lenovo. Lenovo, of course, have their Legion GS, and Ronald stated, "We've been really innovating for a long time in the console space, and as we partner across the industry, it's about really how we bring those innovations that we've incubated and developed into the console space and bring them to PC and bring them to the handheld gaming space." I'd say that it's bringing the best of Xbox and Windows together because we have spent the last 20 years building a world-class operating system, but it's been really locked to the consoles. What we really want to do is focus on how do we bring those experiences to both players and developers to the broader Windows ecosystem. We're focused on really simplifying that and making it a much more, quote, console-like experience. Our goal is to put the player and library at the center of the experiences and not the Windows work you have to do today. I think we'll have a lot more to share later this year, and I think that it's going to be a journey and we'll see a lot of investments over time that you're starting to see already, but again, we'll have more to share later this year. At the end of the day, our goal is to make Windows great for any gaming device, and the reality is the Xbox operating system is built on Windows. So there's a lot of infrastructure that we've built from the console space we can bring to the PC space and really deliver the premium gaming experience to any device. Now, I do think that simplifying PC gaming, and yes, having that experience, which is a very console-like experience, is something that's absolutely fantastic. Obviously, Steam have things like Big Picture Mode, which of course can run even on a Windows-based PC, but frankly from Microsoft's perspective this makes a lot of sense. Ultimately, Xbox has been struggling to sell hardware this generation. It's very difficult for anyone to argue that, and there's like evidence that the PlayStation 5 is outselling the Xbox Series consoles 5-1 in some regions. Nintendo are poised to launch their next generation Switch, and while of course it's not going to be a powerhouse, it's certainly not going to be outcompeting, let's say, the PS5 in terms of hardware performance. Let's just face it, guys, it's going to sell like hotcakes. Nintendo are going to deliver the experiences that people expect, and people are going to buy and reciprocate by just simply buying a crap ton of the console. Now, switching to Valve for a second, its operating system is designed primarily around the mobile market, of course, and we've seen this leveraged extensively and very well with things like the Steam Deck. But it's also available for desktop kinda, and don't forget that Valve are most likely looking to enter into the console market. I covered this quite recently more extensively. It will take a lot for Microsoft to really feel like it's had any pressure put on it by Valve in the longer term. And while I don't expect Valve to start eating like 30 or 40 or even 50% of the market share by itself, let's just be honest. Even if they lost 5 or 10% of PC gamers, it can make a huge impact in Microsoft's revenue. Valve are also opening up the Steam OS for more handhelds. And ironically, one of those, given the fact that the roundtable I just talked about is the Legion Go S. Microsoft Income isn't just about selling you their operating system anymore. This is a model they relied on extensively in the oldest version of Windows up until, let's say, Windows 7 or so. Now, Microsoft's ecosystem is the company's business model. This is everything from the Windows Store, your data, and of course, perhaps things more obvious to a lot of gamers, whether you're on Xbox or PC, Game Pass. And it's not just the software that's going to really change, I think, for the PC and mobile handheld markets. Things could even change in terms of the hardware as well. When you think about it, ARM for Windows could impact things significantly. Several years ago, x86 and Windows PCs were best buddies. But now Microsoft, well, they're basically doing the equivalent of being in an open relationship by pushing ARM for Windows. x86 apps can run on Windows for ARM, though it relies basically on emulation. Windows 11 pushes 64-bit apps, but depending on the application, i.e. something that's very taxing, low level, may crash or be unsupported. And of course, again, you do have that emulation overhead. I am simplifying this, of course, and I would advise you guys to do a bit of due diligence because there's certainly a lot I'm missing or simply, well, just paraphrasing. And of course, you do have some caveats, like some apps within Windows themselves, for example, Office, do have native ARM versions that you can run instead. But obviously, this is something that's going to improve in the future, almost certainly, particularly if Nvidia have anything to do with it. Intel and AMD obviously produce graphics cards as well as x86 based processors, and Nvidia are mostly, at this point anyway, for gamers known for their RTX graphics. But the company doesn't have any shortage of products which utilize ARM based processors. For gamers, the RTX 50 announcement was what really drew a lot of the attention from the press, but Project Digits, which is humorous in its name, is also impressive, albeit if you're interested in AI. I'm going to assume for this video you don't give a rat's ass about AI, but let's just take the call. I'll assume for this video that you don't give a rat's ass about AI, but the takeaway is that this thing cost you around $3,000 and is powered by a GB10 Blackwell chip. The Grace part being the CPU, and Grace, if you're unfamiliar, is the Nvidia lineup of ARM-based CPUs. Now this processor is developed by partnering with MediaTek. According to Reuters, via The Verge, during the investor conference, Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of Nvidia of course, said that Nvidia are indeed looking to perhaps launch a desktop-based processor. You know, we have plans, he said. This is in reference to the Grace processor, but he'd have to wait and tell you what they are. Also, MediaTek might throw their hat into the ring because they said, well, now they, as in MediaTek, could provide that to us, but they could also keep it for themselves and serve the market. So it's a great win-win, end quote. So in my opinion, I think Microsoft making it easier for folks to jump into PC gaming is going to definitely be a good thing. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Windows 11 certainly has had a bit of a negative reception, and much of that, of course, we've discussed, and I think many people have made their complaints to Microsoft pretty clear. With that said, I will also be very happy for Valve to release their own operating system. And again, of course, that isn't to say that you can't already game on Linux, but I think Valve pushing and pushing and pushing as much support as possible to the Linux platform is only ever a good thing. Like I've said before, I like when AMD does well in processors, just for example, but I also think it's fantastic when Intel have competitive options as well. Ultimately, we as well, people who are pulling down lots of money for this stuff want the best value possible. We want as many options as possible because it keeps the market innovative, it drives things forward, and we just get better bang for our buck. With that said, guys, if you've enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you soon. Do let me know in the comments below what you would really expect to see out of a more gaming-friendly Windows operating system, and also if Valve does get involved in consoles, how do you expect that to actually work? So what I mean by that is, do you expect it to be, let's just say, a bunch of, for lack of a better word, certified hardware, i.e. it has this GPU, this CPU, and essentially Valve certifies it and give an operating system? Or do you expect it to work more in terms of like companies can license the Steam logo, for lack of a better word, and then they basically can iterate in kind of an iPhone manner. And how would you expect them to eliminate like one generation of games versus another? There's a lot of very interesting questions I have here. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, and be sure to check out our sponsor Whokeys if you want to help support the channel for tons of great deals on Windows and other Microsoft software. Again, you can pick up Windows 10 Pro for $23.48 without our discount, RGT, but if you do use that, you get 25% off, so that's $17.61, and Windows 11, meanwhile, will cost you $30.96 without the code, but using it will grant you the price of just $23.22. And there are also tons of other great Microsoft Office deals, PC games, and lots of other software as well. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.